Hello, my name is Taylor Robinson. I'm the creator of Cliché Adventure, which is a multiplayer open-world action-adventure game that I made in my free time. It took about 3 years to make, and it's the first game that I've uploaded to Steam. In this video, I'll talk about the key features of the game and give you a tour on the island of Cliché to give you a better idea of how the game plays. Also, I'll talk a bit about the development of the game, and in the next part, I'll give you a look under the hood to give you an idea of how the game actually works, for those of you who are interested in that sort of thing. So, this is the hub world of Cliché, and I'll demonstrate a few of the powers. This one's Explosion, sort of a late game power. Ice. Of course, you can gather any of these powers in any order you wish. Of course, some are easier to get than others. Demonstrating how you can freeze water to walk over it, using different powers in combination. So you can teleport onto a block of ice that you've created. Freezing plants to create obstacles to block enemies or to activate switches. Also floating blocks across water to teleport to. The fire ability to melt blocks you've created or to set off chain reactions to burn other things. Also melting water. Leading enemies across ice, then melting the water to make them fall into it. Electricity, activating various things, robots, switches, also works good for destroying enemies. And that's basically your menu system. There's no item menu system or any kind of item management. It's basically just your powers and your sword. See there in the minimap, as you go around the world, it shows you where you are. The pink dragons can help you get around the hub world a little quicker, and can be unlocked in the other regions once you've completed the game. It's one of the boats that takes you to the Dragon Desert. This is the area where the rabbits live, up in the frozen north. And they're part of Hubtown. Each of the races sort of live together in this one area where the island meets up with all the other smaller islands. This is the Enemy Museum, where you can collect all the different enemies in the game by freezing them. And then they're collected here. Once you've collected all the enemies, you can unlock the Golden Hero Sword, which pretty much one-shots anything in the game. Back to the hub world, and many different kinds of houses, many different kinds of people to meet and explore. One of the side quests where you save the miners to unlock the Pixie, which helps you find hidden items. Going off to the mushroom biome, where you get the explosion powers. Those are some checkpoints that have not been activated yet. Help you get around the map a little more quickly. It's the flower region of the hub world. A flower person. And here's the dock, which takes you off to the flower island. Of course, I've already beaten this file, so the pink dragons are already unlocked. So each of these smaller areas has an above-ground area, a cave, and a temple with a boss fight. When you go to a new area, you're filled with the energy of that area so that you can use that one spell. And if you defeat the boss of that area, then you unlock that spell to use in other areas. So starting out the game, you'll have only your sword to work with, and whatever spell comes with the land that you are currently in. This one would be teleportation. And if you unlock new items, you can gather more items. So basically, you can use the checkpoint system to go to different areas within the island, so you don't have to backtrack too very much to get back to areas where you needed other powers to unlock items. Occasionally you'll see a white dot fly out from the player, and that's actually an item that was unlocked it goes to the nearest treasure every time you press the talk button. Helps you hunt down treasure a little more quickly. Some hands. Those were a pain in the butt to program. Get them to actually work correctly. Making my way to the cave system now. There's a hidden tree house over there in the cave. Here's the map. It shows you where you need to go and where you currently are. Resize it or completely remove it, whatever your preference. And here's the first cave system. Each cave system looks very different from the others. You can see the lighting is sort of cracked, coming down from cracks in the ceiling. Sort of the idea of this is called the fractured forest. So the world is cracked and slowly falling apart. So there's light coming down from the ceiling. Here's one of the mini-bosses, the lucky golden cat. And each area has a variety of mini-bosses to defeat to get through certain areas. That's where one of the miners would have normally been, but as I said, I've beaten this file. There is a reset button, though, which you can step on at any point in the game. It gives you plenty of warning before you do so, and that will reset the main story of the game, which will allow you to go back through and play the temples over and over again, as many times as you like. Bosses as well. That way, if you've played through an area and then you wish to play through the area again in 2-player, you may reset the main quest and keep all of your items and simply play through again with your friend. The game also works on... what's it called? It's Steam Play Together, I believe. I've tested it with several people. Works quite well. Another tree boss. One sneaky shot of apples at the end there. The explosion power, a little OP, but as I said, it's one of the most difficult powers to unlock. Deciding how I want to approach this situation, I decided to just YOLO it, I suppose. Another hidden area that you would need another power to get to. Also, some of these walls are explosive, or can be exploded, revealing hidden treasures, or mimics. I decided not to deal with that guy. Some warpers. These are purple warpers, which do not shoot anything at you when they warp away. There are a variety of different colors of each enemy. Here's a blue void stomper, a gold upgrade, so you can gather upgrades for your gold pouch. And gold is basically your magic bar and your not exactly your life bar, your continues, I suppose. You need 50 gold in order to continue once you've died. Chain reaction on fire there. So, using massive amounts of magic means using massive amounts of gold. And the more magic you use, the less continues you have. So it's sort of a trade-off. There we are. And you can see it uses up gold. When you die, you turn into a ghost and leave behind your gravestone, and you can only move a certain distance from the gravestone to sort of draw enemies away from it. And then you run back to your gravestone, float back to your gravestone in order to activate it. And the system is explained the first time you die by Oomin, a ghost who works for the Ghost Father, trades in illegitimate replacement bodies. So you can either buy one from the Ghost Father immediately, or or if you run out of gold, then you wake up back at your house, and you have to wait 1 to 2 weeks for a replacement body, a legitimate one. The idea of that is there is no permadeath in this game. Even enemies will reincarnate and respawn. So that sort of explains that feature, which is in many old school adventure games. Trouble with this mini boss that I need to beat him in order to get the blue key to unlock the temple. I'm not being as careful as I normally would because I'm trying to get through this quickly. Normally I'd be far more strategic about this. There's the blue key. Gather as much gold before the ghosts grab it. Dealing with some enemies before I walk across here. Not with electricity. There we go. And this can be played with the controller for precision aiming, or it can be played with the keyboard. And the obstacles are set up in such a way that you can still easily hit everything if you're playing with a keyboard and can only hit 90 degrees or 45 degrees. Gray stump over there. I decide I'd rather not interact with these directly. These as well. And that activates the blue block. There was a graphical glitch there. That was the screen capture, not the game. Now I've unlocked a checkpoint there, which I decided not to use. Now I'll be working my way over to the temple, now that I have the blue key. Using the controller to get a bit more precision out of my aiming. You can also throw frozen blocks across areas in order to teleport over. Of course, you would still need the blue key to enter the temple, but you could still explore this area before you would normally be able to if you had the ice powers. And there are chests scattered throughout the world, so it's certainly worth exploring. Just making my way over to the temple. There it is. There's the temple. There we go. That's the blue key opened. Another checkpoint, so you can make your way over to the temple very quickly, or glitch there. So, into the temple we go. Okay, so now we're in the temple, and this is the first time you meet your brother, Antag, and he's basically explaining his evil plan. He's kidnapped the princess. Many princesses, in fact. And so these temples are set up in a way so that they are open world, the same way as the world is. You can complete different areas at different times. You can go off to the left or off to the right, collect a key, and after you've collected the keys, then you can go down the central area in this one. Each temple is set up differently with different obstacles, different enemies, traps. Sort of a classic adventure trap, or puzzle, I suppose. Not exactly a puzzle, but more of an obstacle. It is not overused, I promise. Some warp bats there, along with some normal ones. That one is completed. Some mummy. These are good for collecting hearts and gold. If you set the mummy on fire, it will actually turn into a skeleton. That was the first time I've ever hit that enemy with a pot. I wasn't entirely sure what would happen. That's why we test skull bats every time you hit them. They switch places with you. It comes into play later on in the temple. This is one of the mini-bosses of the temple. And that crystal up there stops you from using magic to just destroy it with explosions. You actually have to beat it more legitimately. So each of the mini-bosses throughout the world plays a little differently. There are 20 of them in all. This is one of the harder ones. One of my favorites, though. I enjoyed doing the animations for this character. I really like the way his eyes spin around as if he's dizzy from teleporting all over the room. His mismatched shoes and patches. I believe I called him the Warp Witch. Or Warp Wizard. Having a bit of trouble. There we go. AVG popped up there for a moment. I had to click it off, just cut that part out. Right there it explains how to push blocks. These are black eyes, they eat magic, stop you from using your power. Sort of like the crystals, except they can be destroyed by smacking them with your sword. Activated a checkpoint there. And if you had the ice magic in these areas, you can actually freeze enemies to place them down to stop the block from moving and actually sort of cheat your way through this puzzle. I decide not to in this one. That's been activated, and that opens up the door over here to the left. And if you ever get lost, you can always check your map to see where you have been, where you haven't. It's a chest that you might backtrack to at some point if you have the explosion magic. It allows you to upgrade your bag. There's the first key, and a bit of gold, which went off to my bank. The bank, once you've completed the desert area, Found all the Wraith Hearts, which melted down into iron. Create the safe, so that every time you get gold that you can't hold, it goes off to your bank account, which you can grab later on. Trying to get these skeletons to fall down these pits. And I got one of them. Many different ways to interact with objects and enemies in the game. In their pathfinding, not quite finding the door. Or perhaps I've blocked that door from skeletons. Can't quite remember. You actually start out the game with 250 gold, which means you have to be a little more careful about how you use your gold early on. There's freezing an enemy there. If that enemy wasn't collected, then it would go off to the museum. There, you can see the map of the temple is a turtle. Each temple has a different theme to it. This one's a turtle, the snowman one, the mushroom one, several others. 6 temples in all. 5 main temples, and then the final boss temple, which is sort of a mini temple. So then 6 mainline bosses to go with those temples, and then a secret boss, which is actually located in the Fractured Forest cavern, if you can find it. The door's locked. Decide, instead of going over there with teleportation, I'll freeze the hand and try to get it to land on the block. Determined to do so, and it doesn't quite work, and that is an interesting glitch. Looks like it began to fall down the hole, but then stopped because it was right on the edge, so I'll have to look at the code for that. So they were trying to pick it up, didn't quite work. The hitbox on it has obviously shrunk down. Put a simple true-false variable on there to make sure that it falls all the way down no matter what if it begins to fall. Blue warpers here. Hit them, they shoot warps at you, send you all around the room. I had a lot of fun laying out these temples, creating each room individually and sort of giving each one a theme. So that's unlocked that door right there, so that another key can be collected. Enemies have no knockback, so you just have to retreat away from them as you fight them. Same thing with ghosts, or actually ghosts teleport all over the room, I suppose. And there's the second key. And this will activate the checkpoint teleportation hub. There we are. So back to the start. I don't like wasting the player's time by making them backtrack if they don't need to. So once they've completed an area, so back to the beginning and straight on to the next part. It actually took a great deal of time trying to make sure the controls were perfect and you could slide around walls just fine and not get stuck on anything. I was thinking this game could be interesting for speedrunners. Perhaps. Especially since you're able to reset a temple as many times as you like, go back and try it again. I struggle a little bit there with teleportation because I'm rushing. I'm not exactly a speedrunner myself, even in my own game, it seems. So that's all 3 checkpoints completed. And one more key to find before we can go to the boss. That's 50 more pulled down the drain. You have to be careful. This area always catches me off guard. I forget that it exists. All of a sudden you're face to face with an entire room full of slime. That's what happens when you work on a game for several years and then come back to an area that you haven't seen for perhaps several months. Or an area that you created at 4 in the morning and totally forgot that you even made. So that there, you can see you can teleport through the fence if you hit the enemy. Now it's time to go and face the boss. And absolutely everything in this game can be played as multiplayer. So, the entire hub world, the temples, there's also a PvP area, and then a variety of board games as well, which can be played with your characters. Pick up the chess pieces or the checker pieces, mahjong pieces, move them around the board. Not mahjong, Go, I believe. Sort of the desperate last stand of the monsters trying to stop you before you enter the final boss room. Of course, if you know this area is coming up, you can kind of rush past them, take a few hits, make it to the door. But in this case, I decide to fight them, or at least a good number of them before I rush past. This is your brother Antag again. Monologuing. The whole game has a very goofy and sarcastic feel to it. Basically says you can have the princess back if you feed the dragon for him. Basically feed yourself to the dragon. These characters are saying, how long has it been since the dragon's been fed? And they're like, oh man, it's been about 6 months because the guy got fired. And if you played the demo back in the day on Newgrounds or itch.io, then this is where the level ends. The boss is dead, you move on, and that's it. But things have changed here. you are actually related to all of these different bosses in one way or another. This one is actually your uncle. He's lost all of his skin due to starvation and the fact that there is no permadeath in the game, so you don't actually die. And all of the enemies are actually quite friendly with you when they're not on the job. Including bosses, which talk about respawning. Enjoying the challenge of facing the chosen hero. So that is the Doodad of Warp, which I've already collected, but now it's been collected again. And so once you've collected that, you can use the Doodad of Warp in any area. And here's the house of the boss off in the distance. And there he is. Basically, the story is you are a half-dragon because your father was the old hero of the world, and your mother was the end boss, essentially. They end up falling in love and not completing their destined battle, so destiny is passed on to their children instead. The princess deciding that she doesn't actually want to be saved after all. Doesn't want to deal with the politics of her kingdom. So she stays here with the monsters instead, who are far more chill. Since they're no longer obliged to attack you, they choose not to. And several times monsters will just be standing there, and when you talk to them, they'll tell you that they are on break. Or simply not in the mood to fight. Here's the reset area that I was telling you about. Gives you plenty of warning to make sure you don't accidentally reset your main quest. Of course, you get to keep everything that you've collected. Only the checkpoints and key doors are reset. So before you step on the switch, it gives you one final warning, and then once you step on the switch for a certain amount of time, you go back to the beginning. And there's your mother there, who isn't actually there at the beginning of the game, but once you've defeated her in battle, in her monstrous form, she comes home. This is the menu screen. X volume, music volume, cloud multiplier decides how many clouds there are. Camera X and Y float decide how slowly the camera drifts over to the player. Since I couldn't quite decide how I wanted that to feel, I left it up to the player. Then set keyboard controls. If one player is using the keyboard, there's the well of 2 players, controlling one player with the keyboard and the other with a controller. You can also plug 2 controllers in. And I did all of my testing with an Xbox 360 controller and a PlayStation 4 controller. The sign there explains all the different controls. See your hearts and what player is in control of those hearts appears on the screen. There's also the PvP area up there, demonstrating the save crystal, save at any time. And there's a lady who explains the well and how it works. And that is it, basically. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and will consider picking up the game yourself. Enjoy!